How's it going? My name's Corey. Um, I work with the Existence Project and GVAT, basically as a speaker and somebody um, with personal lived experience with homelessness, pretty much all over the country, um, not just BC or Victoria, but all over Canada. I'm originally from Ontario, Hamilton, Ontario, and it's a different scenario out there for homelessness than it is out here. But I'm gonna speak on out here my experience with homelessness and my perspective on that and what I feel um, needs to change and what can change, um, and just give my experience being homeless out here in Victoria. um, I wanted to say, with the situation, with people in Beacon Hill Park, stuff like that. I just want to first tell you my experience. I was in the Salvation Army when I was homeless originally. I found pretty quickly that that was a bad environment. And that was the best environment that you could possibly be in, being homeless in Victoria, BC. Other places are um, our place and Rock Bay, which is all um, specifically designed for people that are struggling with drug addiction. Um, this was an issue for me because I'm sober and I'm trying to stay sober and stay alive out here and try and live as healthy as I possibly can in order to keep my mental health well, my physical health well, uh, in order to get myself up out of this situation. Which I found myself in a really bad situation where I was unable to prevail and prosper from my current circumstances because I was put in an environment that was sick and I couldn't get well. You can't get well in a sick environment. So not everybody that's homeless is a drug addict or has been struggling with alcoholism or a drug addiction. I was one of those people that was sober and all I wanted to do was get on my feet and stay away from the bad influences. I do not want to be mixed up with people that are going through certain things because that's for them to go through at the time that they're going through it. I shouldn't have to bear witness to that just because I'm homeless. I have to live a lower quality life or lifestyle and be around drugs, be around crime, be around, bad influences and elements that I don't need to be exposed to while I'm trying to better my life and improve my mental health, improve my physical health, so I can get well enough so I can work, so I can provide for myself and be self sufficient. And we don't have that opportunity here. It's not there. I've heard a lot of excuses and a lot of things like, oh, well, there's this and this resource and that resource. In my opinion, um, those things are really not what they claim to be. Um, it was a bad situation. It was a situation that I had to change my lifestyle and the way that I think. Where I come from, we don't tent outside. There's no, a whole street, uh, you know, like Pandora or the East Asian Strip that doesn't exist because where I come from, if you're caught with paraphernalia or if you're doing, drugs in public, they will arrest you and you will do 90 days in jail and you will dry out and you will come out sober. And then now you can think properly enough to decide if you want to go back to that life or not. And 9 times out of 10, people don't want to go back to that lifestyle. Sometimes you got to be forced out of the trans that you're in. You know what I mean? Like, it works out there. There's not whole Pandora strips and East Hastings strips. Uh, that doesn't really exist. So that's another topic. But for now, I just want to talk on the fact that what I needed to do to better my quality of life and stay healthy and stay mentally well while I was homeless, I had to live outside. People claim that individuals just want to do their drugs and drink and not follow any rules. They don't want any rules, and that's why they choose not to live in a homeless shelter. And that is a complete lie. It's an illusion. That is not the case at all. Maybe for some people, but that's not what I seen, and that's not what I felt. What I seen and what I felt was everybody's going through something different uh, at different times. I was in there. I'm in a dorm with 30 other men. Okay, um, some of them struggling with drug addiction, some of them struggling with alcoholism, some of them struggling with mental illness, and I'm sober here, and I've conquered drug addiction. I've conquered alcoholism. I've conquered, taking care of my mental health, and I've reached this level where I'm like, okay, I'm getting to the point where I can take flight, and I can become, I can get a job, I can maintain a job, I can be well enough to take care of myself and be independent, you know what I mean? And that's the goal. But when it comes to homelessness, it damages you. It damages you. The streets damages you. The influences around you damage you. There should be a place for sober people to go. And this is what happened. I had to go and find a safe place outside all of a sudden, where I've never even thought about tenting outside in my entire life. In any situation I've been homeless, that's not a reality where I come from. You can't tent outside. It's negative 30, in the winter, and also it's a little more hostile out there, and more dangerous to be living outside. But and that's why a lot of people come here. They not just because they want to party and have fun in a warm place. It's because they don't want to live amongst demons and devils and all these influences and all these things. It's a bad situation, and we just want to be free. We just want to be at peace. We don't want any problems. We just want to be able to survive while we're homeless, so we can find a way out of this situation. You know what I mean? And um, so I would go to Beacon Hill Park, and I would tent, and I would hide. I would hide the best that I can. I would find the most discreet place. And I'm a sober person. Like, I'm not there drinking. I'm not there doing drugs. I don't want to see it. I don't want to be near it. It's bad. It makes you sick. It makes you mentally ill. And that's where mental illness comes from, I believe. I believe it's from long-term exposure to the streets. And you know, I've been treated unfairly by staff in the shelter. It seemed that they were bitter or upset or angry with their job, and maybe they were influenced by, even, it's trauma. It rubs off on you. The trauma of the people in the streets, that energy, that negative energy, whatever. Some people choose, yeah, some people are not ready to improve their lifestyles and improve their well-being and their mental health. That rubs off on you. And but that's a job. They get paid to be there, and there's a difference in between somebody that wants to be there and somebody that's just there for a paycheck. And you can tell the people that are there just for a paycheck, they're brutal, they're cruel, they're very mean to you while you're already in a vulnerable state. And that's corruption, and that's abuse of power. And that's unfortunate that that's happening with inside of homeless shelters. So it was not it was a very unhealthy environment for me, not just from the people living in the homeless shelter that are staying up all night because they're struggling with addiction or alcoholism. They're staying up all night making noise. Like, there's so many bad things going on. So many different types of people that are going through different things. It's unfair to me. It was tainting me to a point where I needed to make a decision, and I had no options. The only option was the Salvation Army, and they only give you 30 days, and then they kick you out if you don't pay them $600 a month to live in a dorm with 30 other men that are going through different things in their lives that is I don't need to be exposed to. I don't want to hear the negativity. I don't want to look at the drug addiction. It's not well for my brain. I've already been through trauma with that in my past. It is not good for me. I have to do what is good for me, and I cannot get out of homelessness, and I can't get a place and get a job if I'm in an environment like that, being sucked into it, being influenced by it. It's affecting me on a daily basis. It's affecting my mental health. It's affecting my physical well-being. I cannot live and function like that, and then society expects me to live to their standard and then work and provide for myself and become independent. Well, now I have trauma attached to that experience, and it's affecting my capabilities in taking care of myself and functioning in a normal manner. People don't see that part, though. That's where the stigma is. That's where it needs to be removed, and people need to understand what's really going on here. I was one of the very few people that were sober in a homeless situation, and it was a nightmare. It was like I was the only person. I was one of the only people that were sober trying to fight my way out of this, and it seemed like the system was almost set up against you almost, or it's just they weren't aware of these things, and they need to be aware of these things, and there should be a place for people that are sober that need to protect themselves mentally, physically, and spiritually away from all of those elements in order to prevail or to step up to the next level in taking care of themselves. I'm housed right now, and I'm doing well, but the only place that I had to be well, to maintain a healthy lifestyle, mentally and physically, was to live outside, and it was to tent in Beacon Hill Park. In 6 years, since I was 22 years old, I'm 28 now. I first came to the island when I was 22. And in that entire amount of time of me camping and tenting in Beacon Hill Park, off and on, you know, uh, I've had places out here and then went back to homelessness because I was living off $140 a month off after paying rent. It's ridiculous out here. And then I'm trying to get a job in the process of hanging on by a thread after I just went through all that in the homeless shelter, after I'd just been worn out, drained out. I'm defeated. And now I got a place. Okay, well, now I need to heal. Well, you don't have time to lay around and heal. You don't have enough money to eat at the end of the month, or after you pay your rent. You have to go and get a job now. So I'm out there trying to do that while I'm burnt out, while I'm emotionally distressed. It was just self-defeating. It was me banging my head off the wall. I did not get a job in the amount of time I expected I would. And to save myself, from completely crashing and burning out, I was trying to get a job before that happened. It doesn't work like that. That's not how it goes in real life. People need to understand that. It's not going to go that way that you think it is. It doesn't happen that easy. You don't just get a place and then get a job, and it's just not going to work. Especially after what you just been through, it's not going to work. It doesn't work like that. Um, how do I know? From doing it myself, experiencing it multiple times, and I'm a sober individual, so people can't blame mental illness or addiction or alcoholism on me. Always, that's the go-to blaming thing for society. Why, and that's the stigma, right? And that's why I'm here, is because I'm gonna prove that there's sober people in that environment that deserve an advantage and a chance to better their lives, and it's not there. It cannot be done. You cannot get well in a sick environment. So that has to change. And I believe that there's motions that are being set in place to do that. And that's why I'm doing this video, because I want to contribute to that. So, never seen a fire in Beacon Hill Park. Um, I've seen garbage, very little, once in a while. Usually gets cleaned up. It's maintained daily, right? That park. Uh, People are employed to clean that park up and maintain it. Um, but that's not an excuse to put garbage anywhere in a beautiful place like Beacon Hill Park, a historical landmark that I love personally. I love Beacon Hill Park. I respect it. It brings me happiness every single day. I love going there for walks at nighttime. I love going there. It brings me joy to my life, and I'm hurt too. To see any type of garbage or any abuse of that place. It's just a beautiful place. It's rare. It's unique, and I wouldn't want it to be harmed either. So I am in the same place as the rest of the people that, the 10,000 people that signed a petition. I understand, and I agree we have to protect that place, but it's not as easy as that. You can't just say, okay, well, we're, homeless people can't go there no more. We have nowhere to go. The people that go to Beacon Hill Park are usually the people that are sober, that want to stay away from Pandora and away from the Salvation Army and away from Rock Bay. You are forcing sober people into a drug influenced environment because they have to survive, to eat. You know what I mean? When we do that, it lowers our quality of life. It gives us bad influences around us to make the wrong decisions. When you're already in a vulnerable situation, you're already depressed about your circumstances, you're already defeated, you're worn out. Then you got all of these people around you influencing you. You're seeing drug use. You're wondering, why do people do this? Well, maybe I should just do it. And then you give in to that sickness, and it creates another user. You know what I mean? And that cannot happen. The way things are set up now, it is increasing and expanding in building up homelessness. It is contributing to the cycle of homelessness. The way that things are set up, it will keep people down. It'll keep people entrapped into an unhealthy, lower quality life, and there's solutions to that, and they're doable, but like I said, that can't be a reality of that me, a sober person, is homeless and I'm trying to get out of this situation, and there's people staying up all night. I can't sleep. How am I supposed to work? How am I supposed to work on no sleep when I'm already defeated by trauma before I even came to BC, before I was already been on the street since I was 14 years old with no parents, no influences. I grew up in the street. I didn't have parents around me. I didn't have family. I had no support. I had no guidance. I did not even know what a SIN number was until I was 18 years old. There are people that ended up in bad situations in their life that didn't deserve to be there, it wasn't from them wanting to party and do drugs. There's kids out there from 14 to 17 that have just been abandoned, that didn't have, their parents went to jail, they were doing drugs, they were drinking, they were abusive, sexually abusive, all these things. These people that are homeless since a child are traumatized. They have post-traumatic stress disorder. They are destroyed. They are defeated and destroyed from the inside out, and they need to heal, and they need to be loved. They don't need to be hated by society. Okay, that just feeds the cycle of addiction, feeds the cycle of homelessness, and that's why it is getting worse, and that's why it is the way it is. This needs to be changed. The money, the funding is there, the resources are there. We live in an abundance of resources in Canada. Nobody should be homeless. Yes, some people don't want to change their quality of life. They've grown, adapt to that lifestyle, and they've grown some resentment inside against society and the way that things are run in society, and don't want to be a part of it because they were rejected by society. So they choose to, they grow content with that. But if we can show them a higher, better quality life, and show them that people don't hate you, people do care, and we have an opportunity and a chance to change our quality of life being homeless, that's going to influence other people that are going through homelessness to, yeah, you know what, I can do this. There is a better way to do this. I don't want to live like this anymore. You're right. But it's too much of a jump to just be like homeless, trauma, addiction, all these things, and then all of a sudden get a job, get a place, and function like everybody else immediately. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't exist. That doesn't work, and that's cruel to even imagine. It's incorrect. It's incorrect. It does not work like that, and you will not know until it happens to you. I've met a lot of good people that had houses, that had careers, that have kids, a wife, and they got laid off for 6 months, and then all of a sudden they couldn't make car payments. They lose the car. That's the vehicle that they drive their kids to school. Now him and the wife are fighting over finances. There's stress, there's tension. They start fighting. She leaves him, takes the kids, and goes to seek out stability from another man, or goes to her parents, and then they get divorced or whatever, and then he ends up going into homelessness. He's a sober guy, but now his wife left. He lost the house, he lost the car, he got laid off for two. This happens, okay? It doesn't just happen from alcohol and addiction and stuff like this. I've met really healthy looking, really decent people that were showing me their pictures of their kids, their family, them there in their house with their car, and I'm like, wow, this can happen to anybody. It just takes one bad thing to go a little bit too long until things get out of control, and one thing spirals and the next thing goes. Your reality can change very quickly, so be humble. But other than that, I just wanted to make this video speaking on the fact that they're gonna start kicking people out of Beacon Hill Park. Where am I gonna go? Where are people like me gonna go? Sober people that don't want to be a part of drugs. I do not want to be around crime elements, okay? It's gonna suck me right back into a bad life, and I am fighting for my life to stay out of that life. How is this possible in the country of Canada? Why is there no place for a sober? Okay, well, the Salvation Army is apparently a sober place, right? You only get 30 days there, and then they make you pay $600 a month to live in a dorm with 30 other men. There's 3 dorms, 30 men in each dorm. Okay, try living and sleeping in a dorm with 30 other men that are going through all types of different mental illness, drug addiction, alcoholism. That's not fair for somebody that's sober. Okay, it's supposed to be a sober place. They can only do so much. You know what I mean? That's the only sober place there is in Victoria. And that's just new. That wasn't a sober place before, years ago. It is now. Okay, and there's only one. You know, I've been turned down before, from shelters because they asked me, "Do you have a drug addiction?" I said no. They said, "Sorry, our beds don't get funded unless you're struggling with an addiction." So it's almost like a profitable business, almost, where sober people literally have no opportunity to prevail out of homelessness, and it's all directed to people with addictions. And it doesn't seem to be, you know, getting any better. I don't know, but like, bottom line is, there should be a place for sober people. Beacon Hill Park was the only place for a sober individual like me to stay out of trouble, to stay away from downtown, to stay away from Pandora, to stay away from Rock Bay, to stay away from the Salvation Army, away from the influences. It is not nice in the streets. You don't want to be a part of it. Just because you become homeless does not mean you're a drug addict, does not mean you're an alcoholic, does not mean you want to commit crime, does not mean that you want to be around that stuff. I don't want to be near any of that, and I will not. I will find a way to survive. I'll build a tree for it and go live in it and grow a garden in Beacon Hill Park. Like, don't take my ability away to protect myself and to live a quality lifestyle while I'm homeless in order to leverage myself out of that. I cannot leverage myself out of those circumstances unless I have a fair advantage, a sober environment, um, healthy environment. Those influences cannot be around me, you know. And even I would never go to our place to go and eat. I would starve some days. I wouldn't eat for a whole day because I refuse to go to an environment like that. It's just not wise. It's not wise, especially if you have a criminal history like I do, or a history with addiction or alcoholism or trauma. You do not put yourself in a situation like that. It does not matter if you're homeless or not. Just because I'm homeless doesn't mean that I shouldn't have, you know, access to a higher quality life or environment. That is just not, can't be real. That can't be real. And that's the reality I had to face, and it was overwhelming, and I cried many tears. I grew a lot of resentment and hate towards the system, and you know, society not wanting to be a part of it, and it made me withdraw away from it, and then I became isolated. And this cannot be possible in our country, and this can't be possible in Victoria, BC, you know. So that's why I'm giving my testimony, you know. And I'm going to attend events, you know. I'm going to work with the Existence Project. I did my story, you know, with the Existence Project. And, you know, I'm going to continue on that path, man, because there's a huge blind spot. There's a huge stigma in the way of what reality truly is and what homelessness really is. And not everybody that is homeless is you know, struggling with a drug addiction or alcoholism. There's lots of sober people, and you know what? A lot of them become drug addicted and turn to alcoholism because of the influences, because of the circumstances. If you're already down, you're depressed, you're broken, you need to rebuild yourself up, you need help. You don't need bad influences around you to suck you in, because that is how evil works. You know, as soon as you're down, broken, and hurt, you're going to make the wrong decision as soon as that opportunity is there for you. Remove those bad opportunities and influences away from you when you're in a vulnerable situation. Every man and woman should have the ability to do that, to protect themselves and to maintain themselves, you know, and we should have that option here, you know. So that's all I have to say about that. If the system or the government or whatever, you know, people that are in power that have the ability to bring change, if they're not willing to, um, you know, provide another option other than Johnson building, you're mixing all the sober people in with the drug addicted and with the criminals and the drug dealers and all that. You're mixing everybody into one pot. What do you think's going to happen? The people that have a little bit of a chance to prevail are not going to now, because you threw them in the pot with the rest that are just, it's just, you can't. Try doing it yourself. I would love to see it. You will not make it out of there, Maybe if you haven't been through any trauma and you haven't been homeless since you were 14 years old and grew up in the street, maybe, you know, you had an advantage. You don't realize your advantage. So you might not be completely, fried and devastated from your past, where you might be able to function enough in an environment like that to leverage yourself out of it, but the chances of that are very slim. So something has to happen. This is my testimony. If you're not going to provide other option or solution, please don't take our ability away to take care of ourselves, to live a healthier quality lifestyle outside being homeless, until we can regenerate the strength and the mental well-being and the physical well-being enough to, and the confidence, in order to get ourselves out of that situation and become dependent, self-sufficient, and rely on ourselves. There are ways to do this. Um, there's other places, even in BC, that have accomplished this and established it. The tiny home community, the off-grid, eco-friendly, self-sufficient, off-grid, living off the land type lifestyle, log cabin homes, tiny homes. Doesn't take a lot of resources, doesn't take a lot of funding. Um, and people that want to live a better quality life, which there's many that are out there in homelessness that are suffering, they will take that opportunity and run with it. I know I would. If I was at the Salvation Army and somebody said, "Hey, we got a piece of land in Saanich and we're building a self-sufficient, eco-friendly type lifestyle community for homeless people to live in a higher quality, environment, to better themselves, to give them the right opportunity to leverage themselves out of homelessness." And it starts with becoming well enough to do so, and you can't do that in an environment like that. So we have this piece of land, we have an idea to build this many tiny homes. um, you know would you want to contribute to that? We're looking to grow our own food. We're looking to be as self-sufficient as possible for the homeless community, and that will lead as an example for the rest of the homeless community that are going through addiction or going through these other things, that they see there's a step up now, and it's not just a jump from homeless to get a job and get a place. And there's the stigma that's in the way. The landlords don't want to rent to you being on disability welfare or having a drug addiction. They're not going to rent to you. You're not going to get out of homelessness. So the you know the, there's been other communities that have accomplished this. So there's a piece of land. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna grow food. We're gonna build little tiny homes. We're gonna build little log cabin homes. I will go there myself and do this myself. Give me the piece of land. Give me the wood, or give me the tools to chop the trees down. And I've been watching videos for the last 3 years of how to build your own log cabin home. I seen a man by himself in 8 months build a beautiful log cabin home with zero experience. He made a lot of mistakes, but he learned as he went. But when it's life or death, when it's homelessness, or to deteriorate out in the streets, and be influenced by, a lot of bad things, I'll do anything. I'll do whatever it takes, but it's not as easy as it seems to just go from that to getting a job, to getting a place, to maintaining. It doesn't work like that. And unfortunately, you won't know that until it happens to you. Um, and hopefully it doesn't. And most likely it won't. So this is the thing. There needs to be a self-sufficient, self-sustaining environment. There needs to be a piece of land, and there needs to be space for sober people, not just people with addictions. Yes, addiction is a big problem. You know, we're doing the best that we can, but we can do better, and sober people deserve an opportunity as well. To just have the opportunity to leverage themselves out of that. And it cannot be done if you're mixing everybody in the same pot with sober people and people with addictions and people that are trying to escape the criminal element, and then you're mixing them right in with drug dealers and other people that live that lifestyle and don't want to better their quality of life. That is bringing the whole house down, and it's feeding addiction, creating new users, and feeding homelessness, the cycle of homelessness, and keeping people down, unable to get well enough to get out of that. And it's true. I witnessed it. I've been on my own since I was 14 years old in the streets all over Canada, all over BC, Nanaimo, the whole island from Courtney all the way up to Parksville to Victoria to Nanaimo. Then I was in Kelowna, Penticton, Vernon. I was in all these places. Uh, I experienced homelessness in all these places because I went all over the place trying to establish myself in these different places, thinking maybe there's more jobs over here, maybe there's cheaper rent over here, maybe there's, you know and it was the same thing everywhere I went. It was just against me, and it blew my mind to the point where I gave up on civilization and I decided to live a more self-sufficient lifestyle outside. Rent is too high. The workforce is very unwelcoming, and it's very, cruel and mean, and it's hard for people with trauma to just jump into that. It's almost impossible, and nobody's willing to realize that or accept it, and they just want to point the blame on the homeless guy and say it's all his fault. And it's because he's a drug addict, and that's wrong, and it's not right, and it's inaccurate 100%. And I can prove it if I'm given the opportunity. I can also contribute. I can work. I will build. And that's the thing is, we're taught to work for another business or somebody else, or to help them, benefit them. We should be working for ourselves. We should be growing our own food. We should be learning how to build our own homes. We don't need a mansion to live in. Okay, people don't need 5 rooms, 10 rooms. We just need a nice little self-sufficient, eco-friendly environment. Like, I can show you thousands of videos of places where they're doing it right now. For the homeless, they've built these little tiny homes in a little section where they're growing little gardens and stuff, and they feel good about their lives. They feel good about themselves. They're living a higher quality life. They're becoming more and more, at least in the direction of being self-sufficient. And if we're unable to, if some people are on disability, if some people are unable to work, or they have mental illness that blocks them, or people are just not built like that. You can't expect everybody to be able to do what you can do. you know um, there should be a place for people like that. We should be free to just go and find a piece of land, go and be like, well, you know what, I can't provide for myself right now, but I believe that I can build a little structure here and a little shelter, and I can get some seeds and grow some food. And by next year, I'm going to have a lot more than I did this year. And I did that by myself. It didn't take money to do that. I shouldn't have to have money to live. You know what I mean? Shelter, water, and food are essentials. They're not supposed to cost money, and you got to be willing to work for it though. And I'm willing to build it myself. I'm not willing to work for a wage. Well, I am too, but I'm just saying, like, um, I would much rather build my own stuff, and grow my own food than work for a small wage to get very little to just pay my rent and be poor and broke after that. There's got to be a better way, and there is a better way. And you know, we're going into some dark times right now. So I mean, the best thing that we can do right now is lead, by example. And we can, improve the quality of homelessness in BC and in Victoria and in Canada if we start. It doesn't take that much resources. Food grows from the ground, water